Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Better Health. I am absolutely delighted to be here today with Keren Lesham, who is the CEO of OCON Healthcare, an incredible company that is devoted to women's health issues. And she is here today to tell you her story, her personal journey as a CEO, entrepreneur, and as a leader, and also to tell you about the amazing technology that has incredible potential to be a game changer for women. During the course of the webinar, we're going to encourage you to please send questions to Keren or to myself. We'll do our best to answer that live. And if we can't, we'll certainly be able to get back to you during the course of the next week. So, Keren, welcome to Better Health. It's your first time on the webinar, and I am absolutely delighted to celebrate International Women's Day, which is tomorrow, with you today, a little ahead of the curve. And I would really like to start the conversation off by talking a little bit about you and how the journey has been to be a leader in healthcare and an entrepreneur and a CEO, because there's many women out there who look to you and to other women as inspiration. So perhaps we can start by a more personal account of your journey.
So first of all, Martin, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. We only met a couple weeks ago, but I've been following your work since then, and I'm amazed to see how much you promote and lift up entrepreneurs and women and technology. So it's really exciting to be here, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to tell the world about our mission here at OCON and my personal journey. I'm going to do that through a deck. I'm not going to bore everybody with 100 slides, I promise. But I do think that the story kind of intertwines. I was talking today with a group of fantastic people, and I think that one of the biggest advantages of women's health and being a woman is that even if we don't have specific indications or specific pathologies, we can all relate because we're all women. We all bleed and we all have a uterus. We all either get pregnant or don't want to get pregnant. We're mothers and our grandmothers or children of mothers. And so this affects all of us in all wakes of life throughout our entire career and journey and ages. So OCON Healthcare, actually OCON stands for O configuration. So everything we do is on a ball for a reason. We developed a very smart little stent that looks like a ball. You can see the images here. And this little stent knows how to adjust itself to the size of the cavity of the uterus in order to treat different arrays of indications, pathologies that are required throughout our life. This is a true platform. So our mission really is to bring a standard of care to doctors to be able to treat women with various diseases and conditions. I make a lot of noise, so we won a lot of prizes. We also have an incredible team that's really pushing hard to make sure that our technology is brought forward. But I think the one prize we're most proud of is being a technology pioneer at the World Economic Forum. Also for me personally, because this means that we are able to support and create policy around women's health. The World Economic Forum sees women's health as an unmet need and something that needs policy change. And so OCON will be part of that. So that makes us very proud and excited. So we are an 85% women's health, women-led company. I always laugh and say I do believe in gender diversity. So I have a few men, very important men that I cannot live without, and I don't leave home without them. But still, we're 85% women. We're a team of 22. 19 of us are women. And there's a reason for that. I think that we bring a lot of passion into what we're doing because we realize how important it is to treat women and treat our conditions specifically, do our research on women and do all of our clinical studies on women and all the development on women and lead with passion. We're backed by investors both here in Israel, but also in the United States. We're very lucky to have a great supporting group of investors and partners and distributors across the world that help us bring this innovation to market. So we are an Israeli company. I'm an Israeli. I grew up in the US, so I have better English than most, but I now consider myself full Israeli. But in my journey, I started with pre-med, but I never studied medicine. My mom is still depressed till this day, I can tell you. But I was very attracted to healthcare and business development, and that's where most of my roles were. I did a lot of business development, mergers and acquisitions, fundraising, and manage a few smaller startups, but all in the healthcare space, mainly about 15 years in ophthalmology, in eye disease. And I got to tell you, I'm always passionate about what I do. I need to love what I do, and what I do needs to be, good and important. But here, I really feel that I met my kind of mission in life because I'm a customer of the products of our company, but I also want to bring these additional innovations to make sure that other women can enjoy a specific treatment for our anatomy that really fits us. And we want to move away from oral formulations that carry side effects because of the systemic absorption. And we want to move away from surgery. We don't want to remove our uterus, and we don't want to have invasive procedures in hospitals if we don't have to. And so that's what we want to do.
Keren, I have a
Um,
question for you.
sure.
In my journey in my life, which has gone through a few different transitions, uh, rooted in academia, but then into law and medicine, there were uh, a small number of people that were really kind of life changing pivot points for me. They were inspiring. Um, they showed me a path. Is there a person in your life who um, you have had that similar experience with, that has been such a strong influence, whether it's a family member or non-family member, or in a transition from the United States to Israel?
Um, Of course, of course, we all have mentors and leaders we look up to, and people that help shape our professional lives and our personal lives. There's so many people I can talk about, but I think the one that kind of has the unifying thread through everything, through my childhood all the way through my adulthood, would be my grandfather. His name was Henrik, and he was a Holocaust survivor. And he was just amazing. He was this handsome man and worked so hard his entire life, and saved money and was able to raise two gorgeous daughters, one of them my mother. And I think that, when my grandmother died, his wife, he said, we don't die. This is not something we do. And he was always so passionate about life. And I think I kind of caught that from him. He's no longer alive. He died almost at the age of 100. And so I think his passion for life and his willingness to really bring forward a family, I think that was something that really inspired me, even as a young girl. Listening to the stories and the endeavors and the things that he went through, this is something we would never deal with, and hopefully in the future never have to deal with. And so, but of course, throughout my professional career, I was very blessed to not have or to have the courtesy of just being promoted and being really happy with my performance. And always I've had both female bosses and male bosses, and it was always great. I wasn't in a position, I feel very privileged. I was never in a position that I felt a woman. I always felt like a professional. And so I was very, very, very fortunate to have very good people around me that taught me a lot. And I think that I bring, all of these experiences here into OCON. First, the passion, but also the knowledge, and then also my network. And so I feel very privileged indeed.
That's very inspirational. I have similar stories about my family. Um, a lot of those stories also revolved around stress, either economic stress or political stress, um, and how leaders deal with that stress and how they show resilience, how they show leadership to others. It is to me a very, very important um, new episode for entrepreneurs. And I believe that more and more companies are mission driven. Certainly at Endeavor, we really like to have both social and financial impact. And we try to work with companies that are mission driven, like yours. And I'm just wondering, over the course of your career so far, have you seen a transition at all or a change in the way that women CEOs are driving new businesses? Is there some progress or shift or empowerment that you have seen over the years?
Definitely, yes. The reason I'm laughing is because when you say, how you deal with the stress, for me, it's been 3 years at OCON and 25 kilos. But joke aside, I think, women lead with passion. I think they want to prove, that their capabilities, but I think also they do that without ego. Most of us, right? I've met women that are like men. I've met men that are like women. It's a very big generalization, but the women I deal with and I've dealt with in the past are mostly women that are very driven and have a lot of compassion, but also not a whole lot of ego. So we leave the ego outside when we step into the office, when we step into the boardroom, when we step into a negotiation, and we really want to make things work. And we want to make sure that everybody's happy with the whatever outcome is there. And I think, we are very fortunate again to be able to lead companies such as OCON and others. And my team of, C-level and VP level are incredible. But even, the other team members, you see that everyone from each department that we have, and we do everything here. We have our own manufacturing and we have our own labs, our own R&D, medical, clinical, quality, regulatory, all of the departments are here, clinical. And 85% women, you see, we lead with passion and we have a purpose. Someone asked me once, what's the hardest thing about managing so many women? Because they thought I would say, we always bicker and fight. And I said, it's getting to physically into my office in the morning. And he said, what do you mean? I said, I'm standing there with my bag on my shoulder and I go from office to office and we talk so much. It's just to physically get into my seat in the morning would be the hardest thing about managing women.
Well, I have quite a number of people with terrific comments. They really appreciate, the personal story. I just want to really recognize some people and to encourage people to put in the comments, where they're from, where they're signing in from. Obviously, today is an international call, and we have people really from all over the world. So, a personal thank you to Nikhil, who really has, um, really been a supporter of the things that you're saying and has his own personal story. He's a CEO of one of our portfolio companies. Um, there's Rasham, there's Jenny, there's Marino. Thank you very much, everyone, for all of your comments. And please uh, let us know where you're logging in from. It's terrific to develop this kind of community within the webinar series and the support for entrepreneurs, and this week in particular for women entrepreneurs. So thank you, everyone. And now just want to let you pick up where you left off on your presentation, Keren, about the company, because it is a fascinating story. It is the use of innovation and technology to solve real world problems.
So, when I joined OCON, I joined as Vice President Sales and Business Development. And very quickly, the board asked me what I thought about the company because it seemed that the company was in distress. We had one product, it wasn't doing, as well as everybody thought. And I quickly said, I don't know. I don't know anything about women's health. Who are the players? What exits are there? who are the main investors. But the first thing I did is I looked at the patent portfolio to see, what is this technology about? And what I learned was super, super exciting. So, in essence, OCON owns the three-dimensional space in the uterus. You can't put a ball. You can put a line, a T, any other shape, but you cannot put two arcs. This two-arc formation is part of our first family of patents. These are granted all over the world, United States, Europe, China, Canada, Israel, you name it. And looking at the fact that we own the three-dimensional space in the uterus is huge, because now you have this little ball that can deliver drugs. You can put so much drug, and let me show you, there's so much room and space on these units to put drug on. So if you look at these balls, I don't know if you can see my screen, but there's so much room to put any active ingredient. And this really caters to the entire cavity itself. And so the first family of patent was really strong. And later on, we developed the other family really to build like an onion. So the second family of patents talks about what we can put on the frame. And this gives us complete freedom to operate, because this granted patent in the US and Canada says that we can put any active ingredient, any hormone, any pharmaceutical, any chemical, anything we wish. And the third family of patent talks about the formulation of these active ingredients. And so we have the formulation of the beads, we have the beads themselves on the frame, and then we have the frame. So this is a huge combination of patents that gives us this, exclusivity in the space. And when I looked at this, I said, one product dealing with contraception, is nice and important, but there's so many pathologies and indications out there. 1 in 3 that suffer from bleeding. 7 in 10 women will have a fibroid by the age of 50. 8 in 10 women of color. 80% of women of color will have a fibroid by the age of 50. That's insane markets. 1 in 10 suffering from endometriosis, even though today we talk about 1 in 6. These are humongous markets, right? This is not just a device to treat healthy women that want to not conceive. And so when we looked at changing the strategy and really focusing on uterine pathologies, that's when the company really started to boom. The investors came in, and we started doing our studies on women. And this is what excites us every morning, is to hear these women go into the clinical studies and come out the other end and say, "You guys saved my life. I'm not bleeding. I don't have these. I can be a mother again. I can be a wife again. I can go to work. I don't have to take 3 sets of clothes with me." And so that's super exciting. These are
Yeah,
all, sorry.
no, no, I didn't want to interrupt, but I just want to highlight, the personal quality of your day-to-day job. I think most people want an experience where they feel so connected to what they're doing on a human level. And again, just to circle back, over the past several years, obviously, COVID has impacted people's mental health, their emotional health, their physical health.
Right.
And I think, from my perspective as a physician and as an investor, the silver lining to this tragedy is that it has made people more connected as human beings, recognizing the importance of personal health care as a primary core element of day to day life. I also think that it's spilled over into work life balance with hybrid work environments. And so, the ripple effect from, great CEO leaders like yourself and the personal account, you know, it's clear that it filters into you on a personal level. I can
For
just
sure.
see how, in the energy and the enthusiasm and the excitement when you talk about these personal experiences. Is there something that you might be able to give to young CEO entrepreneurs, a word of advice, perhaps relating to either, you know a wrong step or a misstep um, in your life that now leads you into this environment where it sounds very satisfying? Is there something that you can, give to young women who want to be entrepreneurs, some words of wisdom?
Wow, there's so many, but I think the one about resilience, because there's always going to be someone that's going to say, who cares, or it's not important, or it's not going to work, or this is too hard, or this is too easy, or this whatever, or this costs too much money, or this is women's health, it's not cardiology or cancer. There's always going to be the nice person to kind of, bring you down, an investor that says, oh, great product. Can you use it anywhere else in the body? Why? We have so many conditions for women. Why would we want to use it in the body? I want to tell them to stick it up, where, and try and see if it works. But there's always something that will try to bring you down, even from your team, even from your family, even from. And so resilience, really, if you believe in what you do, one of my wonderful mentors these days, Dr. Robert Auerbach, introduced me to the idea of anti-fragile. And it was one of the lowest points where I said, wow, am I going to break? And he said, no, anti-fragile. That means that the more mass or energy or weight you put on certain elements or certain things, it actually makes them stronger, like your muscle, right? You work out, it tears a little bit, you put a lot of weight on your muscle, but then it grows. And I thought that was a super interesting, way of looking at it. The more pressure and the more kind of heavy weight that's put on me actually makes me stronger. And so, that's something I would love to give out. There's a book called Anti-Fragile that I really recommend, and it really talks about resilience. I love it, and I went with it, and I said, you know what, this is going to make me stronger, which it did. And
No,
yeah, go ahead.
no, I just want to underscore that, you know, the environment when you're dealing with investors can be very stressful and very challenging on a personal level. And, um, for me as an investor, it's very, very important to recognize um, the motivation of the CEOs, the motivation of the team. And while there are certain parameters that need to be met in terms of a return on investment, starting with the core strength of the team, which is their vision and their mission, particularly in healthcare, to me, you have to have that. So I understand the stresses that I'm sure you have experienced when there are comments from investors that don't share that core focus. Um, I applaud you for all the things that you've done, and there's no question that this is going to be a successful launch. And I know that you're going to talk a little bit more about the amazing things that you've done um, on the contraceptive side with 100,000 patients to date outside of the United States,
Correct.
which I think really underscores many of the strengths of the product. And I'm sure countless stories which attest to the validity of the product and the personal impact. Before you jump back in, I just want to kind of give a shout out to so many people have dialed in from so many countries. Essen from Turkey, several people from Canada. We have Jenny down in Miami. We have Nikhil up in Alberta. We have quite a number of people from Southern California. So thank you all for taking the time and sharing this incredible 45 minutes with this community. So, Keren, maybe you can fill us in a little bit more about some of the specifics on the wow factor of the technology.
So indeed, Martin, thank you. We did validate this ball as a copper IUD outside the US. We actually have 130,000 women that are using it, including the CEO. This is a non-hormonal reversible contraceptive that can stay in the body for up to 5 years. We still have it available in markets where doctors, wish to insert it into women, where women also enjoy it. But we are now focusing really on the pathologies. And the first pathology we want to look at is heavy or abnormal bleeding. We'll have both a hormonal and a non-hormonal version, uterine fibroids, as I mentioned, and also endometriosis. You can imagine these are very expensive hobbies. These are all drugs, and they will be coded as drugs and reimbursed as drugs, and they're called by the FDA a drug product. But we do have a little dream. On the balls that we wear inside our bodies anyway, we want to put a little chip. This chip could be very instrumental in looking, for example, at the microbiome. There's a lot of studies around the microbiome, especially in the uterus, to look at fertility or infertility issues. There's a host of vitamins and minerals and stem cells, of course, that we can learn from. And any changes to the lining, to the endometrium itself, to alert for any cancers. And so adding a chip to this would help create the biggest, AI in women's health. Wearing these devices, I think that would be incredibly great to also bring in for this incredible platform. If I may, I want to zoom into one of the products that's really making impact, that's super, super disruptive. And it's what we call the SEED. I don't know why Israelis like to take, sentences and shorten them into like words, but the SEED stands for Spherical Endometrial Ablation Device. And what it does, it basically offers women a treatment that is safe in the office to treat their abnormal bleeding. So 1 in 3 or 1 in 4 women bleed abnormally, right? These are women that are anemic. It's a huge, huge market. And today women only have 2 options. Option number 1 is always hormonal. Either the doctor gives you pills that you have to take every day with a ton of side effects and compliance issues, or they can place an IUS, what we call an intrauterine system, that releases hormones directly in the uterus. This will always be the first line treatment. What happens when women grow a little older, they're done planning their family, they don't want to take hormones anymore, they're counterindicated to hormones, they just feel that hormones aren't going well for them. The only other option they have is to go into the hospital and get surgically removal of the lining of their uterus, very invasive, very aggressive, capital equipment, very expensive hospital procedure. And in certain countries like Eastern Europe or low to mid-income countries, what we call LMIC, none of these devices are available to remove the lining. And so they go directly to a hysterectomy. Hysterectomy has humongous side effects mentally and physically and emotionally. Of course, it brings menopause much quicker. And so what OCON is looking to do is really bring in a new second line treatment, right? We want to move away from hospitals. We don't want to have invasive treatments. We don't want to get rid of our uterus, but we don't want to have hormonal therapies necessarily. And so we built this SEED, and what it does, it goes into the uterus, just like an IUD. So it's not a fun procedure, but it's definitely not painful or debilitating like a hospital procedure. And it stays in our body for about 30 minutes and it comes out. And what it does, it just peels, almost like a chemical peel of the endometrium. We don't have any ends of nerves inside our uterus, and so you don't feel it. And after about 20, 30 minutes, these balls melt into a paste that's very thick, and they treat the entire cavity, 360 degrees. And the doctor removes the device, just the frame that's naked, and women can go home and enjoy a huge drop in their bleeding profile. And when we look at the stakeholders of this type of technology and why it's so disruptive, we give women an option, that's non-hormonal, but they don't have to go into the hospital for these invasive, intrusive procedures. B, for the doctor, they open up a whole new way for them to make money in the office, in the community, and of course, giving access to low to mid-income countries. And C, for the payers, there's no capital equipment. It's not a procedure in a hospital where you need sedation. The costs go away. It's very cheap to make these little balls with active ingredient on them. So we make everybody happy, the women, which are our patients, the doctors, and of course the payers. When we look at the training or the failure or the pain, all of these just go away. Doctors know how to insert IUDs. We have seen pain in these procedures for 24 to 48 hours, which is transient, means kind of goes away. And if this procedure fails and women can be treated, which will happen, right? There's no one size fits all. they can always go and get a more debilitating, invasive procedure in the hospital. So we've done a clinical study. My board is going to kill me, but I'm going to do this study as well. Hopefully next month. I got to do it. I'm the best person. I always say that I'm a woman and could be a prospect or a customer of our products. We see incredible data. This is already phase 2B, so we've already treated about 30 or 40 women. We're now treating an additional 40 women. This is an FDA protocol, so we're doing it before we actually go to the FDA. We're doing it here in Israel and in Georgia. And we see across the board huge drops in bleeding. This is from a one-time treatment over a period of 12 months. We see over a 70% drop in bleeding. This means that these women, from not being able to work for 6 to 10 days, being anemic, not being able to function as a mother, as a wife, go back, and now they can enjoy their life without blood loss and without the ability, like I mentioned, to really take extra sets of clothes and to be embarrassed and to really go through this on a monthly basis, right? And so this really is incredible. This technology is really very, very disruptive and will allow huge returns for any stakeholder that is really part of this fantastic innovation. So, as I mentioned, we're always fundraising. This is all I do. I asked my board one time, I said, what does a CEO do that doesn't fundraise? Like, what's his day-to-day job? They laughed at me because, checks in women's health are so small. It's so frustrating. I hope to change that, and I'm super optimistic. We're speaking to some big investors, and I really hope they join our mission here and our journey. But we want to get these products to market by 2025. We'll really see at least one of these with a marketing approval in the U.S., and then we'll be ready to do some collaborations with bigger pharmaceutical companies that may want to take this commercially. It's a great time to be in women's health. If we spoke 3-4 years ago, nobody knew women's health. Is it even like a topic? Isn't it just a niche? What's going on? I feel that it's really jumping leaps and bounds. You see a lot of mergers, acquisitions, investments. It's really great to see. I feel very optimistic for OCON because a lot of assets in women's health are mostly digital or maybe diagnostic, not really therapeutic as a platform. And so, this would be great for us and also for, of course, women's health. And so we really look forward to kind of bringing our innovation to the market with a big partner. I'm almost done, but I do want to talk a little bit about impact. We are very fortunate to be living in this part of the world where we have access to medicine, we have insurance, and we are able to get treatment safely and in either a hospital or an office setting. Most of the world doesn't. And we are women everywhere, and we suffer from the exact same condition, diseases, and pathologies everywhere. And menstrual hygiene is huge. It's a big, big, big topic, especially in LMIC. And to be able to bring a consumable device that doesn't require any electricity, machine, training, that's very cheap, easy, quick, and safe will really allow women from LMIC countries that have less access to pharmacies and less access to hospitals to get treated really in their communities. And this is really something we're very focused on, to be able to allow access to any woman, no matter where she grew up, lived, born, or chose to live. Last but not least, we are committed to diversity. I think as companies, we have the opportunity to also not only make sure that we invest in diversity, but also in differences. We actually 2 years ago, adopted a college of women that want to escape the prostitution cycle. And they have a big chunk missing in their CV, right? Some of them even over 10 years. And nobody wants to employ them because they don't have any experience or recent on-the-job training. And so we allow them to come into OCON. We have so many departments where they can help on the marketing, packaging, operations, and that's what we do. And we give them at least months, if not years, of the ability to have something on their CV and a reference where they can go on and work. Some of them stay, some of them go. And so we're very, very fortunate to be able, and because we're mostly women, they feel safe. And this is a women's health company, so they also feel that there's a mission here. So that's one thing. And the other thing, we also have people on the spectrum of what do you call it? Autism, on the autism spectrum. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. That are functioning very high level, but these are people that speak differently. They have different needs. And as a group and as a team, when we hug these people in, you have no idea how much it affects also us as a group, to be able to allow these people to make money and to feel independent and to add, from what they can bring to the group and to the company. I feel very privileged. I wish I could employ 100 people like that. But we do our small little part. And this is really a cry out to other companies that are able to do that. Pick one person, two people, and do that. It gives so much back to the team and to the families. It's really incredible. I'm done here. We can remove the presentation, Martin, if that helps to see us a little better. Yeah, there you go.
Well, first of all, it is a real pleasure to hear the personal story, the impact that you've seen firsthand over the years, because as you've said, this is a product that's been in use outside the United States for quite a while. It's been, well received by both medical community and women. Um, what I would really want to know more about, now you are transitioning to the United States. It's a completely different mindset.
Yes.
And now you're smiling, but there are challenges that the United States go-to-market strategy
No.
presents.
Challenges? What do you mean?
Challenges.
What do you mean?
So part of what I like to do with the series is really, to ask CEOs um, about if they had a wish list. What would that look like? Because this is also an opportunity for people who are not only live now, but people who watch the recording of the webinar over weeks or longer, to kind of hear, uh, you know, what would help you, on this journey. So I would ask you if you have a few things in mind. I know that capital is always the fuel that
Always.
keeps the engine going, but
Correct.
tell me about some of the other things that you see as um, important in the development of your U.S. presence.
I think that one of the most important things, and I keep pounding that into everyone I deal with, is a network. Um, we are never, we will never be able to know it all, no matter what we do. And we need professional advisors and people in our network to be able to give us access to other people in the network that can help us with exactly what we need. And if this is a company that can help with understanding the landscape of coding and market access, and if this is a group of people that know women's health in the FDA and can help understand how to get some comments from FDA before you actually go and put forward your pre-IND. These types of network and these types of professionals can save so much time and cost to really help companies, especially companies that are outside the US, understand the landscape. If it's, again, access, if it's FDA, if it's clinical setting, if it's the way doctors think. You can have the best product, but if doctors won't use it, they're not going to buy it, right? Or you can have the most horrible product, but the doctors love it for some reason, it's going to boom. And so it's not always about how good the product is and how well it's designed or built. You have to put a lot of thought behind how to code it, how to access it, how to make sure it's the right opportunity. Why is it good? Why is it bad? What does it come to solve? is there any benefit to it? And there, you can't do it alone. You have to have a group of individuals that are there and that they help you. And your main job is to get them as excited and as built into the company family to be able to really give from themselves and take a good look and assist. And also, I've met so many professional people that said, you know what, I'm not the best person for you, but I know who is. And I love that. I think that those people I will always go back to and say, you know what, I know another company that could fit, what you're doing. Why don't you help them? And so I feel very privileged to be able to have such an incredible network, especially in women's health. My board is incredible because they're both investors, but also we have industry experts on our board that are able to really network us to what we need. And so I really recommend network is everything.
No, I completely agree. It is part of our investment thesis on the Endeavor Venture Fund side to really work with CEOs who share your mindset. The CEOs that are not a good fit under the Endeavor portfolio umbrella are generally the CEOs who feel that their innovation can stand by itself and that there is no support network that's needed other than capital, and that the innovation will sell itself, will somehow go to market itself. And so, again, everyone has their own way and their own style about choosing the path. When I was younger and I started quite a number of companies, I fell into that category. I felt like there was no mountain I couldn't climb and there was no wall that I couldn't smash through. And now that I have a few gray hairs, um, I ask myself, who can help me climb over the mountain and who can help me get around the wall? And
Exactly.
so, as part of this philosophy, maybe it comes from experience or, scars or wounds, but it also is a more rewarding experience. When
I
you're
agree.
building things
I
with
agree.
other people, and you've talked about this throughout the whole webinar, it's a very 360 encompassing feeling.
Yeah.
And so, really, from the get go, when we work with companies, our motto is it's never, ever too soon to look for strategic partners. That includes the FDA, that includes CMS, the coding and billing services, that includes strategic partners in large pharma, in med tech, in biotech, in health tech. And this is part of what I think is exciting right now in this new, what I see as a real pivotal shift in CEO leadership. It, it was for the past 20 years good enough to be disruptive,
Yeah.
and you didn't have to be well behaved all the time. And now it's really important about the ethos. It's really important that the CEO stands for something and is a leader herself. And so it's been a tremendous pleasure, really, to spend this 45 minutes with you and the incredible audience who now is coming to us from so many different countries. Mexico um, has just chimed in here. Really, it has been a pleasure to understand more about where you're going. And I know that you have support by all the things that I stand for in Endeavor. I know that you have support from the people who are watching, and I know you have support from people, here in the United States. So welcome to the
Thank you.
U.S., and it's going to be,
Thank
an incredible follow up a year from now. I would like to have you back,
you.
and I would like to see the progress that you've made over that period of time, which
I'll
I'm
still
sure is
find something to complain about. Don't worry, Martin.
well. I can't thank you enough, and I do look forward to follow up. And I know that um, people will be asking questions. We'll be getting back to you with the answers to those questions. And I want to thank everyone for an incredible episode once again of the Better Health series. Please tune in next Tuesday. We're going to have another incredible CEO whose focus is on AI and mental health. He is a young entrepreneur, first time CEO out of California, and I'm sure that you're going to find the conversation, absolutely thrilling. He is a very dynamic person. He has a lot to say, and mental health is such an under served sector in healthcare, just as women's health is. So I thought it would be appropriate to have that as a follow on within our series. So thank you, everyone. Keren, have a
Martin,
wonderful
thank you
rest of
for
the day.
having me. I loved our conversation. Thanks a lot.
It's been a pleasure. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye bye.